Can you see the screen again, Matt?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay.
Thanks.
We'll give everyone a few more minutes.
Matt, I did find that PDF. I'm going to send a snapshot of it to both you and Grant.
Okay.
Shall we get started?
Let's get ready to rock and roll. I'm good with that, Grant.
All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Programming Personalization. One size does not fit all, a Sage Tech Talk. Tech Talk is a collaboration between Sage and Tazergy, a senior living technology version of a TikTok video or a short version webinar. Let's have some introductions. I'll let Matt introduce himself and his killer bow tie.
Thank you, Grant. Matt Haywood here with Tazergy, CEO and founder. Tazergy is a senior living focused technology service provider partner. We offer consulting, implementation, and ongoing support for various and complete low voltage systems for this industry. And we are also a Sage member, which, little plug here, there is as a Sage member, actually a new member benefit. You can actually CC, I think it is all members, whether you're new or not, have a member benefit where you can get some free consultative services from us for a project that you may have. So reach out to anybody at Sage or anybody here at Tazergy, and we will be happy to talk with you about that.
Normally for tech talks like this, the president of Sage, Jill, moderates this program, but because of a family emergency, she had invited me to participate, to join this webinar as a participant, but because of that family emergency, I have been promoted to moderator. So she may regret that later.
I doubt it. We're happy to have you, Grant.
Thank you. My name is Grant Warner. I am a senior living architect with BKV Group, a national architecture and engineering firm, and I am in the Dallas office. For those of you not familiar with Sage, we are the Society for the Advancement of Gerontological Environments, a membership-based organization representing and promoting collaboration between all disciplines in the senior living industry. Careful planning of educational content presented by Matt, CEO of Tazergy and a member of Sage, hopefully gives you insight into a topic, and maybe we all learn something new. These Tech Talks are free to you and happen every month. If you like what you see and hear today and are not a member, please consider visiting our website, sagefederation.org, for information on a Sage membership. Matt lives in the tech universe supporting system design, implementation, and consultation for this challenging field. We can all certainly benefit from his experience and passion in this senior living industry. Today's topic is smart programming personalization. One size does not fit all. Let's talk specifically about SMART. What's possible to help personalize the resident and care partner experiences in a senior living community? I can speak personally from a recent overnight stay in a senior living community called Elevate Safe Point in Clearwater, Florida, about how impactful their attention to personalize the experience for me, despite the fact that I was just playing a resident on TV, was on my stay there, and about how impressed I was with a technology platform that they had that surprised me with its simplified, intuitive interface and broad capabilities that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So let's chat about both active and passive technologies, and I'll queue up the discussion with some prompts for us to talk about and for you as the participants. And by the way, this webinar is being recorded.
That way we can capture any blunders, any mistakes that we might make, and also you can replay it later.
So here's some prompts just to kind of get the conversation going. We thought about 7 just generic subjects that might be interesting to discuss: hospitality innovations and how they might lead or influence or inspire us in the senior living industry to follow some of the cool things that they're doing. Personalized experiences then in senior living, dining preferences, staff personalization, resident interests, plug and play flexibility with the Internet of Things and 5G technologies, and then talk about the importance of unified interfaces for systems that have multiple functionalities. Oops, sorry, that's my desktop.
Love the Netscape Navigator.
Yeah, I love high technology. It's pretty amazing.
Advanced.
Yeah. So let's talk about hospitality. As many of you have probably experienced, they are doing a fantastic job of personalizing the experience, not just when you arrive at the concierge desk or even arrive at the entrance with the valet, but when you arrive in your room. The TV's already on, some of the preferences are already up, there's a welcome message for you. Some of these hotels may even have access to your, especially if you've stayed at the hotel chain, often they may even have your Netflix, your Amazon Prime. I can continue binge watching Downton Abbey again. They may have all that stuff already ready for you in your room, which has been wonderful. Some hotels may even have temperature, humidity, lighting settings ready for you when you arrive. And just as a specific aside, I really enjoyed experimenting with Marriott's Staywell Suite. So if you haven't stayed at one, I encourage you to try one. Matt?
Yeah, I agree. Those are all really cool innovations. I think that some of you may have experienced them, like Grant had shared, in the hospitality world arena. The way that they're able to effectively deliver that is that it pulls your information from their system and then is able to present it on the television and integrate. I think that that's one of the challenges that we see, and you guys may have faced in the senior living industry, is that the technology is available, but in order to get and present that information, we really need to make sure that we know who the resident is in the unit, and that requires back-end integration, right? You've got your front-end hospitality systems, which are reading from, in the hospitality world, that might be their property management system. In the senior living world, we don't really have a property management system. I think the source of truth tends to be more your EHR platform. So I'd say those are one of the opportunities for integration that in this design arena where we are with Sage, it tends to be one of those things that we don't play a direct role in selecting, and really is more of an application that gets deployed in the space. However, it's a very important component because it tends to be the source of truth. So I think a takeaway is you guys all should know these technologies are capable of being implemented and managed within senior living. The integration is the Achilles heel. That's the key piece to this. So that would be my summary of this, if you will.
Okay. So I just thought I'd just show you what some of those Staywell suites are and what they can control and personalize for our guests. I thought this would be really cool to see in a senior living community. They would be able to personalize an apartment to this level. So let's talk about what we can do then to personalize the experiences in senior living. Things like welcome events, move-ins, socialization, connectivity with family and friends. It's not high tech, but I have to admit, when I arrived at Elevate from my stayover, one of the things they did was give me a key for my mailbox. Even though I was only pretending to be a resident, they had gone that far, and there was a letter waiting for me. And I know it's not high tech, but it was so nice to be able to pull that letter out from the staff, because it not only felt personal and felt like I was welcome in that community, but the thing I didn't realize was it had my new address on the letter, so that then I could then tell my family and friends what my new mailing address was for the community. So I thought that was a very nice touch. The little things do matter. So
Yeah,
what are the little
agreed.
things we can do in senior living to help improve that?
For sure.
Personalization?
And Grant, that's a perfect point that I try to remind people, is that reminder technology is not meant to replace the people interaction. So those things matter. So when we're interacting with community team members that are planning new projects, it's important to remind them of those types of touches. Let's not get so dependent upon tech or so focused on tech that it's going to solve our problems, like writing a letter, putting that in the mailbox. Low tech, high impact, right?
Mm-hmm. Are there anything else from the participants? Anything
If you
you all
guys
would like to?
any questions, certainly put them in the Q&A. We'll certainly answer those as you post them.
I know connectivity with family and friends was really important, and that was one of the things I was impressed with. Although it hadn't been set up for me personally since I was just a temporary resident. There was a functionality where I could call my daughters and my wife or my mother and get them onto a video call very easily. And I really appreciated that kind of simplicity.
Sure. And from a design standpoint, in order to achieve these programming personalizations, one of the things in the design world that we're often faced with is, or ask our clients is, do we want to assemble a performance set of specifications or a design build? You know, in order to achieve programming personalizations like these, I would tell you, you definitely need to lean more towards the design build. These types of personalizations are not achieved accidentally. They're achieved very intentionally. Um, so there are things that can be left open for performance spec. It could be, a competitive bid on structured cabling plant and that sort of thing. But a lot of the electronics and components and systems that are powering some of the things that Grant has shared here on slides and also in his experience, those were not open for performance spec bid and selected by a GC. Would you agree, Grant?
I do.
Yep. So I think that definitely plays a role. How an operator is going to market and position the community, the upcoming community. It could be a repositioning, like you're doing an expansion or a renovation, right? You want to reintroduce an entire community that you've done a refresh on. You might have converted a hotel into a senior living, or you might have converted, an AL floor neighborhood into a memory care. It's important that we as designers know what you want to uh, deliver and program and position so that we can help you achieve that from a design standpoint, right? Some of these things we are familiar with providers and vendors and other applications that we may have interacted with that we can refer you to or invite them into a design call to see if they can help meet the need. Those are, to us as designers, that's one of the ways we collaborate in the low voltage design world. Grant, anything there? Feel free to chime in.
I know one of the things that a lot of the residents I was living with were concerned about was health, about how to personalize that experience, remote health, remote wellness, discussions with their doctors online. They were nervous about some of those practices, but
Mhm.
once they had tried them, they seemed to really like it. And so that kind of personalization for health needs, even for private conversations with doctors and physicians, but then also generic needs with wellness programs, dietary programs, diets, menus, things like that, seem to be really interesting to the residents there.
For you at the during your community stay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in
Did you
terms
get?
of health, what are you seeing? How we can personalize these experiences for their individual health needs?
Well, I think that is, as a low voltage designer and even support, our role when we're supporting open communities, we are not necessarily helping select an EHR
Okay.
platform. We're
Okay.
participating with an operator in possibly the selection of, but ultimately, their director of resident care, their head nurse, that they're going to be the ones that really lean into the product and say, hey, does this product give me what I need? But here's what I would say, some of the key things that operators should be looking for from the EHR is drawing from this list of program personalization. If we go back to our example of hospitality, right? Hospitality had the PMS, their property management system. So when you book a room, Grant, Matt, our names show up on the room. That field is fixed. The room is fixed. Room 200 never changes. If I'm checking into room 200, that TV is going to present that Grant is here, Matt is here. Welcome, Matt. Welcome, Grant. Those are critical. We always need to remember, like we need to have our anchor fields. We need to know what data we're connecting so that we're connecting the right data with the right resident in the right room. So if we say source of truth, our belief is that EHR tends to be that source of truth. The care that you're delivering you're delivering to the resident. Whether the resident moves from room 200 to 100, from IL to AL, from AL to memory care, that resident is moving in and out of a unit, right? So you don't want to anchor a resident or anchor the data to a particular unit itself. So I think I'd say senior living has a challenge there. The challenge in senior living versus hospitality is that we tend to have longer term residents, right? Whereas in hospitality, you're shorter term. You know, our average stay, Grant, might be a 5 day. Well,
Yep.
that's average. Our long stay might be 5 days at a hotel for
Right.
work, Um, in the design world, these are software things, these are integration things that we'll point to in design conversations. And I think it's important for us to be able to just encourage operators and remind them of the importance of this, that if they don't have this available, this is a critical component in order to help achieve some of these programming personalizations, right? In order to achieve these integrations, we need to be able to connect to the resident name, if you will. We're not really talking about connecting to the care record and presenting that. That enters in a whole other realm of compliancy, if you will, right?
Okay.
Um,
Let's move on to
yeah,
dining preferences. Food is my favorite subject. Food is my
yeah.
favorite subject.
I
Seems
think
like a
that
great place where we
resident
can
says the same.
personalize. Seems like a great place where we can personalize the experience with favorite foods, portion sizes, preferences on meal times. Is a resident an early riser? Do they do a mid-morning breakfast? Do they skip breakfast? What are their preferences on snack times? What are their food allergies? How do they take their coffee? Will they have sweet tea for a southerner like me? These are important things that I think could be really impactful. So are you seeing anything in dining services with personalization, Matt?
For sure, on the personalization side, again, that's a software-driven thing. So your point of sale applications. And if we're looking at senior living, which we are, we have our audience of memory care, assisted living, independent living. You have your larger campuses like your CCRCs that include some skilled nursing components. Um, Typically, we're finding that in a campus or an IL community tends to be the communities that lean on and expect a point of sale system solution. Um, they tend to have more residents. More residents are coming in and want more customized meals, which lends itself to these types of things. In assisted living, we tend to see point of sale being less critical because it tends to be less choices. It also seems to be more intimate. Like your staffing ratios are significantly different in an AL versus an IL. So I would say my observation is that in an AL world, we're seeing that an operator may rely upon the knowledge of the team that the team has of the resident
Hmm,
to align those. That doesn't mean that
I love
they're
that.
not paying attention to the critical things like, hey, if you're on a medication and there's a particular food interaction, obviously that's noted. But
Hmm.
again, that gets into operations side, and that tends to be something that we are aware of, but it doesn't play a role in the selection, if you will, of the space. It does play a role in obviously the programming for the space. And as we build these things out, it's very important for us as designers to understand, does this community, are you planning to use point of sale, right? In order to achieve these things and deliver these types of things, you really do need to have a point of sale system. It's going to be next to impossible to truly deliver that on a consistent scale across wait staff, care staff, without an intentional system for tracking and noting that.
I saw a presentation from a client who was using AI in what they called the taste and waste application, where AI was analyzing what the changing resident tastes were over a period of months,
Hmm.
not just daily, but weekly or even seasonal, and using it also to track waste, to reduce waste. So I don't know if you've seen technologies like that, but it seemed really fascinating to me.
I I think that I would agree for one. I think that AI um, presents an amazing opportunity to be harnessed on the back end to do those types of things, to analyze data, observations, trends, and then how it's presented and how it's connected, I think is the next iteration. How are we taking that data? How do we know that it was, okay, if we're analyzing all the meals across all residents, or if we're analyzing, Grant, your particular meal, how do we make sure that that truly is the right data? Is it really your plate that went back, right? And how do we connect that to you? Those are some of the things in the data world that are critical. We can take it as a whole and say, overall, here's some trends that we're noticing. That's kind of easy because, or I would say easier, let's not say easy, easier than providing an analysis of your food consumption, right? Unless there was a way, what I'd say point of sale, it was a point of sale system that you had seen this, the AI analysis of
I
food waste,
apologize.
or
I can't remember what the
okay.
system was, but I'll try to find out.
No, but these are this type of interaction that we're having here is the type of interaction that you guys in the audience that we would expect to have with low voltage. Some of these programming decisions have an impact into the design of the space, right? So if you're going to plan to do these types of things, we need to be aware. We need to be aware so we can do better space planning. If you are going to use point of sale, we need to have some discussions around where some of the hardware and infrastructure. We need to understand what your staffing plan capabilities are. So even though it might not seem like it's important because it's not something that we might need to because it's wireless, let's say, right? Or it's a printer. It's easy to put a data drop and say, okay, printer's going to go here. But that system might not be selected till later, but there's some key decisions, key information that we need, right, in order to make sure that we get the space properly laid out. So I'd say those obviously play a role. When you go to hotels, I think they prioritize space planning a lot. They do a lot of studies on those, right? There's nothing, I think there's very little left to accidental guesswork in a hospitality for the hotel big brands. Would you agree?
I do. Very intentional.
Yeah. And I
So
think
let's
that's
also,
something we need to draw from that industry. How can we be more intentional in this so that we can achieve a better outcome?
I think you touched on something that was really interesting in the last section about dining preferences. It's really the care partners learning what my preference is for my coffee and putting that information into the system. So let's talk about how to keep them happier, especially with staff shortages, recruiting issues, retention issues. Is there anything we can do to personalize the experiences for them as well? Because they're so critical to the residents' happiness and well-being.
Yes, I totally agree. And I would say that one of the opinions and sort of threads that we feel like runs pretty hot is that people tend to be tech frustrated or spent, that there are a lot of tech stacks that are out there, and each one requires a login and an administration. And, your point, let's talk about the examples here. Point of sale with EHR, with even TV, those are three different systems that have to be connected on the back end. That has to be driven by somebody, right? We can help create and document some designs and help drive connectivity and make sure that these spaces are as well laid out as possible. But from a configuration standpoint, that's where I'd say our IT support team and internal IT support teams and vendor collaboration is critically important. I think that is a piece in the design phase that is often overlooked and assumed and that is inferred to be something that the GC will just deliver, and it isn't, right? Like vendor system integration and configuration is definitely not something that a general contractor is going to be able to deliver for a new construction community. It's not. it's just not in their wheelhouse. So I think leaning into that, those are one of that piece is something that we definitely, as a company, Hazard side, try to make our design teams that we are sitting with and projects they're working on, make sure that they're aware of the need for having those conversations and inviting those vendors that they may have into the design and build process, so that we can plan for that. Because I think, Grant, you shared your experience staying at a community and you had a great experience. I think you shared with me earlier that was the best experience you've had yet at a senior living, right?
It
From
was.
a attention to detail standpoint and that sort of thing, and showcasing some of the intentionality of connectivity of systems and what it delivered to you from a resident standpoint, right? You said it was easy to use. You didn't really need much training, and you really didn't want it. You just wanted to see, hey, can I figure this out given the information that they're giving, assuming I'm a new resident moving in.
Yep.
Yeah.
It felt like an iPhone. It was more intuitive. The functionalities were all there, but
Hmm.
whatever they did to simplify the interface was useful to me. I didn't have to worry about all those multiple passwords, all those multiple sign-ins, all those logins. It was all seamless, and I really appreciated that. And I'm not ready necessarily for senior living, but I want that in my home. It was so
Yeah.
nice to use and simple. But let's move on to, because I see we're running out of time
Oh
too.
yeah, we're
So
time. It
in terms of
always happens.
resident interest, yeah, this is great. I wish we could keep going for an hour. But let's talk about some of these resident interests and see what you're seeing in terms of personalization for things they're interested in.
Um, this is something that we definitely lean on our operators, and we ask them what is it that you guys have seen from your existing communities? What are the resident interests that you're needing to address and meet? From our existing communities that we support, I can tell you that the community, some of them care about security. They want to add, they're mindful of the perimeter. They're mindful that it's a safe and secure environment. So I think electronic security, audit trails, those sort of things are certainly important. Um, Video surveillance can play a role in there as well, but obviously in all of these systems, there's a there's a need to pay attention to risk as an operator. By putting in a system, how does it increase your risk? Does it increase your risk or reduce your risk? And that's something that we would counsel and tell all of the clients that we work with. We want to be mindful of that for sure and not ignore that. You don't want to put in a system and then find out later, oh no, by not using it correctly, all of a sudden now we had access to information that we didn't take action on. And I'd say that to me can be mitigated by connecting systems. So if we are connecting resident-specific care, Grant, our conversation here about dining plans and the like, that there needs to be some integration, some two-way back and forth between, say, the EHR of meal. What are the meds? How does that interact with the food? Let's make sure that our dining team is aware of that so that something doesn't get plated incorrectly, erroneously. Um, and that's, in independent living where they're already using point of sale, that that is a thing. But I would say the integration is the next iteration for senior living. I think those are more of a manual thing that happens these days. Not all operators. Some operators have that dialed in, but it's certainly something open for improvement, I'd say, in the industry.
Okay. Let's, with the time we have left, let's make sure we address the question that came through on the Q&A. The question is addressed to you, Matt. How do you integrate the business and residential services retrofit of brownfield properties? Do you see a need for an FTTH overbuild? Does the ownership see the value? And the question is from Eric.
Good question. So FTTH, let's just define that for everybody here, is very complicated, fiber to the home, right? So I would definitely say this: fiber has not met its speed limit yet. So especially considering a single mode, if you will, versus multi-mode, but fiber is transmission of light, copper is transmission of frequency and sound. So we definitely, in our designs, include and recommend fiber. Whether it is truly FTTH is something from an operator standpoint where, like Eric pointed out, business and residential services, those tend to be two different audiences. Your residential services from an operator standpoint are bulk, or the consideration is, do you buy in bulk or do you not buy in bulk and simply leave it open to a retail agreement where the carrier can market directly to a resident and deliver services instead of at scale or at bulk, where an operator might deliver a core set of channel lineup by moving in. So as far as integrating business and residential services, the carriers don't really allow us to blend those. Those are two different sides of the house. But as far as brownfield properties, like retrofitting, say, a hotel, converting it to senior living, Eric, the answer would be we would ask the operator, how do you want to deliver services? Are you looking to deliver a single, double, triple play to an operator? If so, or I'm sorry, from an operator standpoint, are you looking to deliver that to a resident? And we want to make sure that they either have the process and the people built to make sure that they can deliver that, or they might say, no, let's just go retail agreement and we'll work with a carrier directly to make sure that the proper carrier services are in place and delivered to that particular community. Using the word overbuild, I would say we're mindful of not over-engineering a community so that we can keep a project right-sized. It definitely, in the world of technology, there's always the draw to overbuild, if you will. But we want to be intentionally built, if you will, to make sure that we're not, you can't plan for every single thing, but that really will help drive expense if you do. So anyways, Eric, I hope that that answered your question.
We are unfortunately out of time. So
Yes.
just quickly to summary, if you have any questions, please type them in as quickly as you can. This seminar was recorded, or I can send it to you on 27 5.25-inch discs if you want, floppies if you'd like.
Do
There
you
will
just put it in
be,
a cardboard pack so it won't get crushed, bent?
yeah, exactly, because they
Okay,
get folded,
perfect.
you know.
Yes,
it's tough.
exactly. Yeah.
So if as this seminar ends, you will see a survey pop up on your screen. The survey is a great way for you to send compliments from me and criticisms from Matt. So please complete that and let us know, give us some feedback. We don't
Absolutely.
currently have another Tech Talk scheduled yet, but please be on the lookout for a Sage announcement and keep an eye on our Sage website for future events. If there are any other topics you have interest in, please let us know through our website. We'll adapt our talk around that subject matter in the future and coming in the future webinars so that we make sure that our webinars stay relevant to what you're interested in. If there's anything else, does anyone else
As a
have any
parting
questions?
reminder, the Sage member benefit, if you want to take advantage of it, it's some free consulting. So if there's a particular problem or something that you're facing and you need some counsel, give us a call. We'll help take a look at it. We can send over details if you're interested. Thank you for your time. And
Thank
Grant,
you,
thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.